I think a big part of becoming a head coach is knowing what you don't know and being able to kind of to create like almost like safety nets for where your blind spots might be. And like I go back to Sean McVay becoming a head coach at 30 years old. What's the first thing he does? He hires Wade Phillips to be his defensive coordinator, who'd been a head coach in 3 different spots. And yes, Wade was a really good defensive coach, but like when Sean brought him in, when Sean brought Wade in, like a big reason why was like, this guy's going to help me learn to become a head coach. Antonio Pierce in Vegas, and we'll see how that one goes. You know what I mean? Like I'm not saying that that's going to work out long term because there are some trouble signs there too. But the very least, like if you look at Antonio Pierce, what he did with his staff, he has his coordinators, Pat Graham on offense and Luke Getsy on defense, or Pat Graham on defense and Luke Getsy on offense. But beyond just that, he's had veteran guys who've been head coaches on each side of the ball, and Marvin Lewis on defense and Joe Philbin on offense. And Tom Coughlin's been around a lot, right? I do know Jerod brought Tony Dungy in to help him in the spring.
Oh.
But that was more of just like a 3-day visit. You know what I mean? Like that was more of and you give him credit for doing it, but I think it's a fair question to ask. Like, should there be more experienced hands on the staff that can help Jerod adjust to becoming a head coach? I believe Ben McAdoo is the only former head coach in the staff. Is that right?
What does he do, Bert? Exactly.
Well, I mean, according to you, he's on a milk carton, right?
I have because even Bob asked me, like, hey, have you talked to seen him? I have not seen him.
Ben, is it still going on? It's still ongoing? You still haven't found him?
Well, I don't really seek him out, but I casually sometimes, either a road trip or up in the booth, the coaches are right next to us. I haven't run into him yet.
Yeah.
I don't even know if he's up or down. I assume he's up.
Yeah, so I think he's up. My understanding is he's been really helpful with Drake. Like him and TC McCartney have really done a good job in helping Alex Van Pelt with Drake. So I know that's one area where he's definitely gotten his 2 cents in, and he does give you a play calling element, an experienced play caller who's not the coordinator there on offense. And I think that's what, like when you look at that quote that Doug got there, it sort of points to that there is experience, whether you like the experience or not. Alex Van Pelt's had a coordinator title with 3 different teams now, and Ben McAdoo's been a head coach. Where is that experience on defense? It doesn't really exist, right? I mean, you've got DeMarcus Covington, who's promoted from being the D-line coach, and I don't know that anybody else on that side of the ball has risen above the position coach level, have they?
I don't think so.
No.
So, I mean, especially when Jerod said, and he said it to me, I know he said it to other people, that he wanted to be sort of a walk-around head coach, like a CEO head coach, a guy who's, kind of troubleshooting the fundamentals and the big picture issues with the team, right? If you want to be that, and then you got a first-year DC, and you're not really helping as much on that side of the ball, it would make sense to add another voice on that side. I actually have a name for you guys here.
Oh.
Yeah, like Ron Rivera was interested in doing something like that for someone in the offseason. I think he would have been a good name. I think he was somebody who, again, say what you will about his head coaching record, he's been a head coach in 2 different places, right? In Washington and Carolina. And in both places, he sort of had to put out a dumpster fire ownership situation, right? So in Carolina, he was there when the Jerry Richardson thing happened, and like kind of had to be the bridge head coach from one ownership group to the Tepper ownership group, which now we know what that's been. And then, like he was there in Washington through the name change, through the Dan Snyder thing. Like, why not bring somebody like that aboard?
He's made his money. He's sort of stamped his name. He probably doesn't really want to be a head coach again, given where he is in life, what he's overcome.
And he can be super helpful, right? Like
what's Salah's title in Green Bay that they can't?
I would say whatever title makes sure that the Jets get stuck with the bill is his title.
They've been like fluid defensive assistant or something.
Yeah, I think it's sort of similar, I think, to what Vrabel's doing in Cleveland. Vrabel for the Browns. Yeah, so Vrabel's actually worked on the offensive side with the Browns, and has helped with their tight ends and has helped the offensive coaches see what like defensive coaches are seeing in their offense. That's my understanding, sort of the idea of what's happening in Green Bay with Saleh, where he's giving them that extra set of eyes. And because he's got a relationship not just with the head coach, he and Matt LaFleur are like best friends. He also worked together with the defensive coordinator with Jeff Hafley in San Francisco. So there's not like any sort of like, oh yeah, he's threatening to my job here. He's got such strong relationships with those guys that it works. But I think somebody like a Rivera would be really helpful to Jerod in a situation like this. I don't know if Dungy would do it. Dungy's got the TV jobs and everything else, so I don't know that he would do it for you, but it would definitely be helpful to have somebody like that in the building to help you through these sorts of situations. And again, I bring up Rivera because I know for a fact he was interested in helping a young head coach somewhere in the league do that sort of thing, and like he has seen he's had to manage a lot of dumpster fire situations that had nothing to do with him as a head coach.
Is everybody safe going into next year from a head coach and GM perspective, Bert?
I have to think so. I mean, I sort of look at Jason Garrett in Dallas, where with Jason Garrett in Dallas, one of the reasons why he lasted 9.5 years there is because he was Jerry's creation.
Jeez, that's not the guy you want to get compared to.
Oh, the clapper.
But let me finish here. I think part of it for Jerry was like I let him in the coaching meetings when he was a player, and I hired him as an offensive coordinator before people thought he was ready for that, and he did a good job there. And I always envisioned him being the head coach of the Cowboys, and so it took a little longer for Jerry to wrap his head around. Jerry never likes being wrong, which is why he holds on to these guys for too long typically. But like he hung on a real long time with Jason. And one of the reasons why was like, you're like almost double wrong then. Yeah. You know
what too? Like I did a couple things with Garrett way back in the day in the off season. Yeah. There's a lot of similarities with Mayo as far as the smarts. Like he's a smart guy. Yeah. I don't like him as a coach.
Jason's really, really, really sharp. Yeah. And I think that's the thing is like you hire that guy and I feel like you hired him a year earlier than you wanted to. So to me, the logic is you should know that there are going to be bumps, right? Like you should know it's not going to be perfect, especially given the state of the roster. So like if you are making this hire, not for 2024, but what you thought Jerod Mayo was going to be in 2026 and 2027, well, then you stay the course. Unless there are things that have come up that you did not see coming at all that you are blindsided by. Otherwise, it's like when you hire a guy directly from being the linebackers coach, right? And a guy who's only been coaching for 5 years, well, then I think you have to look at it and say there were going to be some bumps. I also think here's the other part of it. And here's another reason why I think the construction of the staff is messed up. Look at who Jerod Mayo has been around going back to high school. Okay. Phil Fulmer at Tennessee, who had won a national title and had been there forever by the time Jerod got to campus. And then Bill Belichick, and that's it. He's never gotten to observe anybody in the situation that he's in, right?
Correct. Very limited experience.
So, like, I've heard, I compared him to D'Amico, right? Like when when we were talking about Jerod potentially being the head coach. But look at all the different stuff D'Amico's seen. You know what I mean? Like D'Amico played for Gary Kubiak and Chip Kelly, and like D'Amico saw a bunch of different things as a player, right? And this guy's doing it right, and this guy's doing it wrong. I can't remember if he was still there for Bill O'Brien or if he overlapped with Andy Reid in Philly, but he got to see like different ways of doing it. And then he went and coached for Kyle Shanahan, which was different. And he got to see that. And that was a true ground up operation when Kyle got to San Francisco in 2017. So the accumulation of things that D'Amico Ryans was able to see, Dan Campbell, right? Like how many different Dan Campbell, I think, worked for 3 different head coaches in Miami and then goes to work for Sean Payton in New Orleans. So Dan Campbell had seen how many different ways of doing it. And as a player had played for like 4 different teams. I think that's part of it too, is that Jerod, going back to when he was 18 years old, played for an established national championship winning coach at Tennessee and an established Super Bowl winning coach in the NFL. So he never saw an operation from the ground up. He never saw what that looked like. He never saw a first-year head coach making his mistakes and having his successes. Like, he never even got to observe those things, So, I mean, there's an experience gap there that I think, I'll just fall on the sword for this, like on this. Like, there's an experience gap that I didn't really dig into much when I was looking at him as a head coaching candidate, that I think it's on him to make up for it with guys he puts on his staff.
Hey, if you like that clip, check out more videos from Zolak and Bertrand right here. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. And for all the latest from the Sports Hub, download the app at 985thesportshub.com.